How's it going? My name is Brent from ENCORE, and today we're going to be working on a Tesla Model 3. Upon requests from a couple people, I'm going to go ahead and install a kit on the top of this trunk, and we'll see how that goes. It is in two pieces, so we've got a piece up here and then a second piece here. So it looks like it's going to have a really long seam across here. I've never installed one of these kits before. We always bulk this in one piece. Let's go ahead and get started and see what this install looks like and see what the finished product looks like. All right, after setting this on here and taking a look at it, it looks like all the edges are going to wrap. And then obviously this will end somewhere right in there, and then the next piece will tuck up against it. A little tack solution so this will stay in place. So I'm going to kind of watch this line here and then try to keep it the same all the way down, as well as kind of watch this one. Alright, so the pattern over there for the next piece is only about an inch or so big, so we know that this does need to be stretched down. So it looks like really it's just coming over the lip here and then hanging down a little, and that seems like a good placement on that. Alright, a little tack solution under there. I'm just going to pull this down with my finger here, trap that in there, and then we'll squeegee that out. That way it doesn't just continue to pop up over and over again. Alright, stretch to right here now. So I see how much this is hanging over here, and it looks like we'll probably want to keep that amount just a little bit going over the edge here. Keeping that pretty uniform will help us when we go to stretch the bottom piece into place. Alright, now I'm going to put some tack solution on this edge. It's important that when we're bumping up against it with the next piece of material and trying to get a real tight seam here, that this isn't continually popping up. Okay, and just to make sure that that stays down while we're putting the next piece in and we're bumping up against that edge, I want to go ahead, I'm going to heat seal this real quick. Alright, then before we move on, let's take care of these fingers up here. So when you're installing paint protection film and you're swiping things out or you're pushing up over the edge, it's important not to stop with the squeegee. So if I'm swiping this and I stop right here and I've got pressure on it, I'm going to actually leave a line, a distortion in the adhesive. It'll basically leave this line from that pressure right there. So when I'm squeegeeing this stuff off, you want to make sure and go over the edge before you stop, because if you go up and stop right here, like I said, you'll leave a line in it. Alright, let's go ahead and get this bottom part on. Let's make sure that this is up to that point and then we'll kind of start right here. If it hangs down like this, it's going to give us kind of a false idea of how much this hangs over, because when we take this up, see how that goes away, and we don't want that to completely go away. And what I'm actually going to do is come back and trim this off in the end. I'm going to start right here, and then I'm just going to start bumping all this seam right into this bottom piece of material, right into the top piece. I want it to just go up real snug. I'm kind of running my finger over it this way, but I'm also pushing up on it here. So I'm going to stretch this just a little bit this direction, and then that's going to help all of this bump right into the other piece there. Kind of continuously push this up into place and try to make sure that I'm butting this material right up to the other piece. So we started right here, so let's get some of this down. Alright, have a little pre-tacking, let's take care of that. And let's work our way over to this side. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty time consuming when you're trying to get this all to line up. So once I get to here, now I want to check and see when I push this up where this line is. And it looks like it's pretty dead on, so we don't really need any stretch that way for this part to line up at the tail light, but we are going to need a little bit of stretch to get rid of that. So I'm going to give it just a minor, very minor stretch. So I'm guessing someone, if you wanted to, you could spend a lot less time making this seam so, you know, perfect's the wrong word, but making it, you know, so lined up so well. But, you know, for our shop, for me, it's very important that this seam hides itself as much as possible, as well as that will help it from filling up with dirt as time goes by. I do think that for sure a little bit of tension on the material helps it line up real well. Helps. Alright, so let's go ahead and get some stretch on this now. Alright, so let's go ahead and get a little tack solution here. Go ahead and wrap this under. One thing I would want to focus on is when I was pulling this down, I'd want to keep this a bit more, you know, if you can see, I don't know if you can see, but it like comes to here and then it kind of goes up a little bit, and it goes across, and then it actually comes down a tiny bit here, and then goes back up and then back down, and it's very minor, but you know, that makes it much more difficult, and I would pay more attention to that if I was installing this pattern again. As far as how this gets pulled down, maybe I would hold like right here instead of holding at the edge, and then I could like sit here and look and make sure that that was staying pretty straight. I need to get home. I gotta spend some time with my kids and things like that, and so I'm gonna go ahead and let this dry overnight, and then I'll be back in the morning to finish wrapping these edges. All right, so it's the next morning. Let's go ahead and get this finished up. You definitely don't have to wait till the next morning. It's just I stayed late to record this video. So all we have left to do is do some trimming, do some wrapping of the edges, and then we're gonna go over this seam here. And I'll show you what I do with those to, you know, really finish that seam off and make it look really nice. And so right here, we're hanging over towards the tail light a little bit. So let's go ahead and trim this part off. And it looks like if you can see, I didn't get this quite down far enough to hang over this edge, so it runs on this edge a little bit. So I'm just gonna start there and then work my way around. If you try to cut here and then wrap this, in this area it's not gonna wanna stick so well because it's only gonna be partially wrapped in that area, and that can create, you know, issues with it popping up. If it was all hanging over, then I would just wrap it. All right, so that's looking good. Let's go ahead and trim the other one. So this one's got some hanging over on it, on all the way across. And so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap that side just so we can do both of them, each one a little bit different than the other. So I'm just gonna make a cut right here, straight down, and then I'm gonna take this over this way. All right, let's go ahead and wrap these edges. All right, we'll go ahead and finish off this seam. Just gonna put some heat on it and go over it with my finger, make sure that it's real pushed down. The other thing when you're putting heat on it, if you can put some decent heat on it, you don't wanna overheat it or anything, but if you put some decent heat on it and you have a nice tight seam, you'll actually kind of self-heal the material together, which will really hide the seam. And then also there's no chance of it holding dirt over time. All right, so another technique I do on seams will be to go over them with this bone stick, and sometimes that'll help hide them a bit as well. When I'm going over with this bone stick, I want to be fairly gentle with it. You want it gliding real well over the material. You don't want to put so much pressure that you're bunching the material up or anything like that. That's definitely too much pressure. All right, well, that's going to be it for this video. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. This is all finished up and ready to go home. That's what it looks like to install the two-piece kit cut out by ENCORE. I think I'll go ahead and stick to doing this in one piece, but I'm pretty sure I could get this edge even better if I did it a couple more times. If you found anything useful or helpful during this video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.